Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. Today it's going to be a super quick video for you guys. I'm going to show you my sliders that I recommend you guys playing on right now on all-madden. There's nothing extremely special about them. They're not going to give you extremely realistic gameplay or anything like that. I've tested out a whole bunch of sliders and I haven't found any that give you realistic type gameplay, but I've found that you can have pretty good games by playing on the following sliders. So we're just going to jump into it in my franchise. This is what we're playing on in my Los Angeles Chargers franchise, and I would say it's a little bit easy because I'm doing really well, but it's kind of a good level for everybody else that I'm playing with. They seem to be having really good games on these sliders. Now, these are the sliders. So most of them in the player skill category are going to be the base sliders. However, you're going to want to up wide receiver catching to 55. Now, these are some of the sliders that we traditionally tweak going from year to year. In Madden 19, we would turn up the wide receiver catching a couple points because your wide receivers are just going to drop balls when they shouldn't. So you're going to want to fix that one slightly. You're going to want to fix the run blocking slightly because your offensive line just simply isn't really going to block quite as well as they should. Or they're not going to block the AI defenders quite as well as they should. So turning it up to around 55, maybe even slightly lower than that, is a good spot for the run blocking because it's going to feel more natural and it's not going to feel like the D linemen are getting off their blocks 24/7. Now, the biggest one that you're going to want to change if you're seeing fumble issues is you're going to want to turn up the fumbling slider to 60. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive because, you would think you want less fumbles, turn the slider down. Well, that's not correct, and this is how this has been for I don't know, the longest time I can remember in Madden, is if you want less fumbles, you have to turn the slider up. So if you want no fumbles, you would want to take this all the way up to 100, and you would not fumble the ball. However, we do want to fumble the ball occasionally. We want it to be realistic, but we just don't want to fumble on every single play. So I took it up to 60, which is a pretty high number, but I still see fumbles in my games pretty consistently, and we've even considered taking it higher than 60 because fumbling is so prevalent this year in Madden 20. And then the only other one that we have changed here for player skill is tackling. Now, it just seems like the CPU breaks away from tackles a little bit too easily, and your guys just don't really have much of a chance, and that's just due to the fact that they have the new formula in the game from Madden 19 that they implemented, where if a player's tackling stat isn't as high as a player's break tackle stat, then they're just not going to make the tackle. And the reason why that's problematic is that most of your players in your secondary aren't going to have a very high tackling stat. That's just the nature of the beast. However, to kind of overinflate running back ratings in this game, in order to make them look like their proper overalls, the developers give most of the running backs in this game really good break tackle ratings. And so what that means, most of the time, they're just going to be breaking your defenders' tackles, so we got to turn that up slightly. Now, going down to the CPU skills, we have to take these ones down all because it just seems like the CPU, at least against people of, average or slightly above average skill level, which is a lot of the guys that we're playing with, they seem to have a lot of trouble against the AI in a lot of different categories, and the AI are given advantages. That's no surprise. That's how it's been for years, but the main one is that QBs will complete every single pass that they throw, and it's been like that for years on all Madden. So you're going to want to take this down to 40, maybe even lower than that. If you take it down too low, though, then they start to miss every single pass, which is just odd. There's no real good middle ground, so take it down a little bit until you guys feel comfortable that you can make, a couple incompletions here and there. And then other ones that kind of factor into that are obviously the wide receiver catching. The wide receivers just don't drop balls for the AI, and you want them to occasionally drop a ball, so you take it down to 45. Their pass blocking and run blocking is like near perfect most of the time, so you got to take those down slightly. They don't fumble the ball very often, so we take that down a bit. And then all of the pass defense and the defensive stats for them are just slightly too high. Like, you will never be able to break a tackle on the AI, but they'll be able to break tackles on you nonstop. Or you won't be able to intercept the ball when it's thrown right at your hands, but they'll be able to intercept the ball if it comes right to them. So you have to kind of adjust for that and take these all down to 45, which is just what I recommend playing on for now. Unless you're really good at the game, you can play on base sliders, which is what I tend to do. You're going to want to you're going to want to kind of switch the skills here so that it looks a bit more like this. Now, the only other ones that I really recommend adjusting are the field goal accuracy, because the reason being is that the kick meter in our franchises seems to lag a lot, and so we don't want to be missing field goals left and right just because we don't have control over it. Like, we want to have control of it, and so in order to compensate for the lag, we have to turn the field goal accuracy up a little bit. And so if you guys are experiencing that same issue, I definitely recommend turning field goal accuracy up. I recommend 30 on the injury side, or you will see significant injuries. You'll see probably the most realistic number of injuries on around 30 to 35 on the injury bar. If you go higher than that, you're going to see way too many injuries. It's going to be unrealistic. Then I want to see, in terms of the penalties, more defensive holding, which is called occasionally if you have it turned up to 52, just 2 ticks. And you have to significantly increase defensive pass interference to ever see it, so we increase it to 55. And then roughing the passer, you never see it in the game unless you turn this up 1 tick. If you turn it up 1 tick, you're going to see it quite a lot. But with the rule changes to the NFL within the past couple years, roughing the passer is called nonstop. So you guys are going to want to turn this up 1 tick. You're going to see roughing the passer calls if you hit the quarterback too late, or if your quarterback gets hit too late, but it's going to be more realistic to play on it that way because you're going to actually see the penalty thrown once in a while. Likewise with defensive pass interference, you're going to actually see the penalty thrown from occasion, and that just isn't the case on the base sliders. So go ahead and take screenshots of these if you would like to. Those are the sliders that I recommend to play on for now until we find sliders that give you a bit more of a realistic gameplay. They're going to be difficult for average players to play on regardless because it is still all Madden, and it's going to be easier to play on for players that are, you know, closer to my skill level, that are really good against the AI and stuff like that. You're going to still beat these teams if you're that good, but it's at least going to be more of a fair and realistic matchup because you're not going to be fumbling on every single play. You know, you'll actually see some of the realistic penalties. Your players are going to get injured, but not too often. It's going to feel just about right if you have these settings on. Later on, whenever we try and figure out more, you know, realistic sliders for what gives you the best gameplay overall, that's just going to be CPU skill and player skill that's edited for the most part. You're probably still going to leave like the special teams, the game options, and the penalties relatively the same because these just kind of are what they are. You know, you want to see penalties more. You don't want them called all the time, but you also don't want them never called. You know, you want it to be slightly realistic. So that is what it is. Hopefully this helps you guys out and gives you guys, you know, at least an idea of what to do with the sliders to make your lives more enjoyable, your franchise more enjoyable. If it did, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more, and comment down below with what you guys want to see next. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.